the Really True Sports Network. The NFL show is brought to you by Replenishing Care and Technologies. Also by Manscaped. Use the promo code TGT20. Sam, you got your grooming utensils, correct?
Yep, I just picked it up today. We got a nice little box right here. We got all our stuff inside. And your balls, thank you.
Thank you. That's the best part of it.
It's because Mike's favorite saying over the past couple of weeks.
Well, yeah, because I'm still in my head 14 years old. So anytime anybody says balls, I laugh. So, all right, we are picking all the games today. Last night, Panthers, Falcons. Terry Bradshaw's on crack, thinking the Falcons may win the next 4 or 5 games in a row and get back in the playoff hunt. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I mean, Matt Ryan didn't even play that well last night. Really, they won the game. But going back and looking at Atlanta's numbers, obviously Julio Jones had a very good outing. Calvin Ridley got hurt. He missed a bunch of the game. I don't view the Panthers or maybe even the Falcons at this point as playoff teams because the Falcons, they had trouble running the ball. There were so many issues there offensively for Atlanta. That's really the only strong suit for this team. I don't see the Falcons ever getting close to the playoffs.
All right, neither do I. So we're going to move on, and we are going to go to a team that's going to make the playoffs, the Green Bay Packers. This week, they will host the Minnesota Vikings. These teams already played once this season. And, of course, the Packers scored 500 points on them and beat them rather easily. The Vikings did make a late comeback. Vikings-Packers, I think you got to go Packers here. What do you think, Sam?
This one's fairly easy. It's got to be Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay Packers. Kirk Cousins is struggling, and he's not playing well. Even if you get Dalvin Cook back and Dalvin Cook's healthy and playing well, to some extent that offense is always going to be hampered. There is talent there in Minnesota, just for some reason it hasn't clicked this year.
I don't know how much talent there is, especially defensively, though. I think that defense is a defense that just got kind of old over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. I mean, they had to get rid of guys like Xavier Rhodes, who was formerly an all-pro cornerback for them, so they had to move on from some of those players. Even guys like Harrison Smith are getting up there. Anthony Barr got hurt this year, and he was getting older anyways. So that defense definitely aged, but offensively, you still had Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph. You still had pieces offensively, just the defense and everything kind of crumbled.
All right, so you're kind of talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, right? That's kind of the same thing. They can score 34 points, but they're going to give up 45. And this week, the Cincinnati Bengals and their atrocious run defense will take the Tennessee Titans, who, lucky for the Bengals, Sam, the Titans don't really have a good running game.
Oh, yeah, you know that. They're not known for having maybe a 6'3" running back, 250 pounds. They're going to feast. I mean, they're going to feast on Cincinnati's defensive front, especially if they're not playing Geno Atkins a lot for whatever reason. Carlos Dunlap is no longer even there, even though he wasn't playing that much to begin with. It's going to be a slaughter out there. I'm like, it's not going to look good.
I agree, and I can't wait for it because Zach Taylor needs to be fired. The thing that worries me about the Bengals is the fact they got rid of Carlos Dunlap instead of the head coach. I think the head coach is the bigger issue here. They brought in Finney from Seattle. Finney wasn't good enough to really play in Seattle. He might be an upgrade in Cincinnati, but that's not saying a whole hell of a lot. I think the Titans win this game something like 38-17.
Yeah, I can see the same score there. I mean, Joe Burrow, he's going to get sacked. Tennessee doesn't have a terrific pass rush, but he's going to have to run to Jadeveon Clowney eventually. Joe Mixon is out for the game. I think you're right on point where the score is going to be 30-something points, maybe 32, 35 to probably 17 or 21.
All right, next up, the Kansas City Chiefs will take on the New York Jets. This is a rematch of the 1968 AFL playoffs, Sam.
Yeah, it is, but I have a feeling that it's not.
I'm sorry, 1969, because the Chiefs had that great defense of Bobby Bell and those guys. And in the playoffs, I think they gave up 6 and 7 points to the Raiders and Chiefs, respectively, before giving up just 7 points in the Super Bowl to the Vikings. One of the greatest defensive runs of all time. And the reason I'm talking about this is because there's nothing else to talk about here except 1969 when you talk about the Chiefs and the Jets, because the Jets are a joke. The Chiefs are going to do whatever the Chiefs want to do to them. And I think the last point spread I saw in this game was 20 points. And I think it is maybe the one time in my life I would give 20 points in an NFL football game.
I don't know if I would take that because the Chiefs have really dominating time possession recently with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but they're not scoring as many points as they used to. So 20 points, that's still.
Yes, they're not playing.
I know. It sounds weird. I'm obviously picking the Chiefs here, but I still don't know if they're going to be able to cover that full 20-point spread because, they're fine with just running the clock down now. They're not trying to score every play. Patrick Mahomes isn't throwing the ball down the field every drive pretty much.
Yeah, but don't you think maybe this time they will?
I mean, if you're going to open up the floodgates for a game, you might as well do it against the Jets.
All right. So we're all picking the Chiefs there. Our next matchup to look at, I think one of the more intriguing ones, the Indianapolis Colts against the Detroit Lions. I think this is a huge game for Detroit. I think if Detroit wins this game, I think they are a wild card contender, as weird as that sounds. If they don't, Matt Patricia probably should be fired because it's all over there. The Indianapolis Colts, I think we expected them to look better than what they've looked so far this year. And I think this is a huge game for the Colts also because with teams like the Browns and Raiders sitting there maybe looking like possible contenders now, that last wild card spot, you may have to be better than 8 or 9 wins.
Yeah, you're going to have to be probably closer to 10 wins if you really want to get, or at least secure your spot going into the final week of the season. And for the Colts, I'm not really sold on that team. They have trouble running the ball. Jonathan Taylor has not been as good as maybe he was advertised to be so far. Philip Rivers is obviously, he's not even a game manager at this point. He's worse than that. I'm still going with the Colts, though.
Except for when he plays the Bengals.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go with the Lions. I think Matthew Stafford's better than Philip Rivers right now. I think the Lions are getting ready to win a few games. I think they won't make the playoffs probably because they're the Detroit Lions. But I'm going to go with the Lions to take down the Colts in this game. Next up, we have maybe the matchup of the week. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Ravens game. Basically, the Ravens are a game back. This is a desperation game for the Ravens when it comes to winning the AFC North, Sam.
Yeah, if you let Pittsburgh start 7-0, it's going to be hard to come back from that. You're going to be a game down because you're going to have the tiebreaker off. It'll be 6-2 if you're Baltimore, 7-0 for Pittsburgh. And it starts getting a little bit tricky then when you're working the numbers. Also, you got Cleveland playing this week. Cleveland would still lose to Baltimore, I believe, in a tiebreak even if they won this game. But it'd be a very interesting situation throwing them in the mix as well. I'm picking Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's got better defense. I trust Ben Roethlisberger if he just doesn't turn the ball over like he did last week. And I think, honestly, the running game for Pittsburgh this year might be better than what Baltimore's displaying.
I think it's a tough game to pick. That's why I paused. It wasn't just for dramatic purposes. But when I look at it, man, I just don't see enough. I don't think the Ravens are going to be able to score that many points. I don't think the Steelers are either. But I think the Steelers go into Baltimore and they win this game 20-17, and people really start to take them seriously now if they haven't already. Pittsburgh's schedule can be questioned in who they've played, but last week you got a big win against Tennessee. Nobody questions Tennessee. If they beat Baltimore here, the thing about it is the rest of the schedule is not real difficult. If Pittsburgh wins this game, I think they win the AFC North, Sam.
Oh, yeah, because, you talk about the rest of the schedule. I just pulled that up because I was going to talk about it. After this, they have Dallas, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Baltimore again, which is a difficult game. Washington, Buffalo, that's a pretty difficult game. Cincinnati again, Indy, Cleveland. Maybe 3 of those games could be losses. I see every other game probably being a win. They have the easy.
I think this. I think the worst they finish is 12-4 this year if they win this game. And I think better than 12-4 is very possible. Now, I'm sure that a game against the Bengals or somebody, they're going to lose because you always lose one you're not supposed to lose. But when you look at it, 12-4 looks like is where they get. If the Ravens get their second loss there, they still got to go to Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's in the driver's seat for this division if they win. And on the other side, I think the Ravens are if they win, Sam. I think whoever wins this game, as crazy as it sounds, halfway through the season, will be your AFC North champion.
No, I believe you. So the Ravens aren't facing a particularly difficult schedule after this either. They do have the Colts. They have the Titans have to play. But other than that, they have Jacksonville, Dallas, too. They have New England Patriots, the Bengals, Giants. So Baltimore's not facing a hard schedule either. Both these teams got kind of lucky when it came to their schedules for the season.
All right, next up, a game that became intriguing this week. Tua Tagovailoa, or however you say it, will be the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins as they battle the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are playing really well. The defense is playing as good as any in the NFL right now. You've got a vaunted front 3-4 with Aaron Donald against Tua in his rookie game. How big of a chance do you give Tua here to get this one?
I don't give him a big chance. I really don't think so. I know he's done everything right so far in practice. Obviously, you must feel pretty confident in him to pull out Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is playing fairly well, and put Tua in. I don't have the confidence in Tua to go out there and win this game right away. We'll saw with other good rookie quarterbacks, even Justin Herbert, even Joe Burrow. They came out and played very well in their opening games and still lost. I think Miami Dolphins are not a bad team. They're a solid team. Maybe going 8-8, 7-9 this year, but they're not going to beat the Rams.
I like the Rams in a close game. It would not surprise me if Tua wins this game. I really like Tua. I think he's got the it factor. I do see issues when he throws the ball, stuff like that. But I think the guy overall is a winner. But I'm going to go with the Rams in this one in a close game, but I don't think we'll be overmatched. Next up, the New England Patriots will play the Buffalo Bills at Buffalo. This game looks like a mismatch, Sam, but so did the Bills-Jets, and the Bills somehow kept the Jets in the game. Any worries here?
Yeah, there's some concerns, I would think. But at the same point, like, I'm not going to pick a huge spread between the two teams. I think that'll be a closer game than most people anticipate. But, I mean, it's Cam Newton versus Josh Allen. All Josh Allen has to do is not turn the ball over 3 times, and they're going to win the game. And we really comes down to New England could lose this game in a sense, not necessarily let Buffalo win.
Yeah, I think Buffalo wins this game. I think New England's got issues. I think the issues are bigger than what we know. And the biggest issue is there's just not enough talent in New England. The Bills have not played well the last 3 weeks, really. So I think the Bills break out. I think the Bills actually blow this game out. I think they win something like 27-10.
I mean, that's on the table too, because I think Julian Edelman won't be available. I'm pretty sure he just had something done on his knee. So you're basically missing your best offensive weapon if you're the New England Patriots. That defense has been kind of pushed to the brink because the offense has turned the ball over so often. I can't see any situation in which New England wins this game, even though Bill Belichick is the coach.
All right, next up, a rematch of the 1980 AFC divisional playoff game between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Cleveland Browns. They also, Sam, played in the first round of the 1982 Super Bowl tournament playoffs during the strike season. Did you know that?
I did not. How did it work out?
The Raiders beat the Browns. I believe it was 27-10.
So it's a good night.
The scary thing is the fact that I don't have to look it up. Raiders-Browns, I think this is a huge game for both teams. And it's probably even a bigger game for the Raiders sitting at 3-3. They have to get the win here to possibly be a playoff team. When you look at this game, you got no OBJ, you got no Nick Chubb yet. Who do you like here, Sam?
You're right. It's probably a bigger game for the Raiders than the Browns because the Browns are already at 5-2. I'm still taking Cleveland. I mean, Josh Jacobs for Las Vegas has not run the ball particularly well this year. I think they had the better quarterback in Derek Carr. I think their defense is just too young. I think Cleveland has too many weapons. Even without Odell Beckham on the field, I think Cleveland's offense is too talented to screw this up.
All right. I'm going to take the Raiders. I think the Raiders win this game to go for it because with the Raiders, the pattern has been this. You get a win you don't expect, but then they play like crap and lose. Then they play really well, and then they play like crap and lose. So I think they're going to go to Cleveland. I think they're going to beat the Browns. I think Cleveland Browns fans need to kind of chill out a little bit. I mean, if you look at the wins Cleveland's had, who's the best team they've beaten, Sam?
You really don't have many options. So we're talking about what Cleveland's beaten so far. So they've lost. They beat the Colts. It's probably the best thing they've beaten is the Colts.
Yeah, they beat the Colts. Outside of that, they haven't beaten anybody. The 2 best teams they've played have beaten the hell out of them. I'm going to go with the Raiders because this is still the Browns, and I still think they're going to implode because they're the Browns, because that's what Browns do. Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense, though. So you played Baltimore, you played Pittsburgh. In those games, the Cleveland Browns scored a combined, 13 points between those 2 outings, and Pittsburgh and Baltimore both scored 38 points. So the point differential there is crazy.
Yeah. And the Raiders already went to Kansas City and won, so we know they can win a game like that. Next up, Sam's Denver Broncos, who he predicted to make the playoffs, will host the Los Angeles Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to win this game, and I think they're going to win this game rather easily.
Yeah, I agree. And it comes down to the quarterback play, honestly, because Denver doesn't have a terrible defense. They really don't. They have a talented defense. So do the Chargers. What really breaks the tie for me is obviously Justin Herbert. I mean, it's Justin Herbert versus Drew Lock. It's night and day there. Drew Lock is probably going to be out of the league in a couple of years. Justin Herbert looks like he could be a top 10 quarterback in a year or two. And he absolutely has to go in favor of the Los Angeles Chargers.
Well, actually, let's face it. Right now, Justin Herbert looks like he might be a top 10 quarterback right now.
Yeah, where did I put him on? I'm going to look it up. I don't know where I put him on my recent quarterback power rankings. I think they had him. I had him at 9, Joe Burrow 10.
Or 11 or 12.
Yeah, maybe. It was right around that point.
But I'm not. Yeah, he's getting up there. And it may mean nothing. Maybe a couple weeks from now, we're saying he looks like Josh Allen did back then, or you never know because it's still early. But I still have questions about him, but as many as I did have.
Yeah, I thought he'd be the kind of guy who wouldn't work out in the NFL. I really thought he had some serious flaws. It'd be almost like a Mitchell Trubisky type guy, and certainly hasn't been that.
Well, I didn't think he'd be that bad, Sam. But next up, the New Orleans Saints against the Chicago Bears. This is a huge game for the Bears, just because, number one, they're tied with the Packers for first. I don't think the Packers are going to lose too many more games this year. The Saints offense, very good. I think the Saints win this game by double digits.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, we saw the Bears kind of get exposed this past weekend. We had been questioning whether or not they were for real. I think people were starting to get a little more excited about them moving forward. So they just beaten the Buccaneers and the Panthers, and then they turn around, lose by 14 to the Rams, and the Rams weren't even doing that well offensively. I think the Saints are going to score 30-plus points on them, and they should win by, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 scores.
Well, I think the problem here is I think no matter how well Chicago's defense plays, the Saints are going to score 21 points at least. I don't see how the Bears get that against the Saints.
No, I don't. So Nick Foles at this point, I'm starting to think he's not even a game manager at this point. Because really, he's struggled so much to the point they can't move the ball. They don't have a good running game. Allen Robinson's really only one big offensive weapon. This Bears offense is just depleted.
All right, next up, the 49ers and the Seahawks. Interesting game since the Niners are playing much better right now. My thing here is the Seahawks are coming off their first loss of the season. Russell Wilson's not losing 2 games in a row. I like the Seahawks, but I do think it will be a close game.
At 4-3, this game means a lot to the San Francisco 49ers can get back to that 5-3 mark. That really sets a lot of tone for the rest of the season for them. I think they're playing a lot better. I still have questions about Jimmy Garoppolo that I carried over from last season to this year. I'm taking Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks.
All right, next up, obviously the game of the week because it's on Sunday Night Football. The Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles will battle for NFC East supremacy, Sam. Is there any doubt in this game?
No, there can't be, right? I mean, maybe it's because of the NFC East and every team's terrible there, but I feel like you have to pick the Eagles.
Yeah, you have to pick the Eagles. Right now, if the Cowboys played the Jets, I would probably pick the Jets just because the Cowboys look like they've flat out quit that much.
Well, also, isn't like Ben, I can't even say his name, DiNucci or something? I'm pretty sure Ben DiNucci's going to be the starting quarterback.
Yeah, what's wrong with Ben DiNucci? You know what? I guarantee you this. If there'd have been podcasts like in 2001 when Tom Brady took over as the quarterback for the Patriots, I bet there'd have been somebody on there saying, who the hell's Tom Brady anyways? He's not an NFL quarterback.
Well, you could probably go back and hear radio shows where they probably did that.
Yeah. Patriots are done. They don't have Drew Bledsoe anymore. But 1980, I mean, what's the most famous Cowboys-Eagles game, Sam?
I'm not going to get that one, Mike. You know I won't get
it. It's the 1980 NFC Championship game where the Eagles beat the Cowboys 20-7. Wilbert Montgomery, Harold Carmichael, Ron Jaworski. Have you ever heard of those guys?
Yes, I know. I know all those guys. I know who they are.
Bill Berge?
I do know. Bill Berge was – if I get this wrong, I'm going to look really stupid. Was the linebacker?
Yeah, ward number 66.
Okay.
Bill Berge was actually a Cincinnati Bengal until the Bengals traded him to the Eagles, I think it's 75. But I just remember that the Eagles used to suck, and then they were always bludgeoned by the Cowboys, and then you get to 1980, they win the NFC Championship game there. And like I said, I would much rather talk about the 1980 AFC playoffs anyways, or NFC playoffs.
Yeah, no, you love the 80s. And
actually, we talked about the 1980 AFC playoffs yesterday.
Yeah, we did. See, we come back to it every day pretty much.
Yeah, now we're 1980 again. Saints and Bears are a rematch at a 1990 wild card game. Won by the Bears 16-6. The Saints that year made the playoffs as an 8-8 team too. And I think that was the first year they had the 6th team in the wild or in the playoffs. So everybody freaked out because they went the extra team and you had an 8-8 team in the playoffs.
Well, we might get lucky. We might not even have an 8-8 team this year.
No, we won't because we've got the NFC East.
That's true. I forgot about them. We're going to have a 6-win team instead.
We might have a divisional winner with 6 or 7 wins. But anything else we want to talk about, Sam?
There's someone in our chat saying Cowboys are going to win it all.
Hold on. Let's go over there. The restream I got to get used to. You just said somebody because you can't pronounce the last name.
That's absolutely correct.
And his name is Alan Windetnick.
Alan Windetnick.
Alan Windetnick says the Cowboys are going to win it all. What does all mean?
All means 5 or 6 games, maybe. Then maybe you could do that. Maybe I could see that working out if Dalton came back and somehow played inspired football.
And then Tom Branham comes back with pretty much with the NFC East. I don't know what that means, Tom. Do you know what that means, Sam?
I'm thinking he's talking about just how bad the NFC East is. Probably he's commenting on one of the things we said a little bit earlier.
Well, I'm hoping Alan's not saying the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl. I hope he's talking, but this is the thing. Thinking they're going to win the Super Bowl is damn near as crazy as thinking they're going to win the NFC East.
Yeah, because they're not.
Alan put he was joking, but Alan, in my defense, we know a lot of Dallas Cowboy fans that if they were to beat the Eagles on Sunday night would automatically go to, we're going to win the Super Bowl. And I think we know who we're talking about, correct?
Oh, yeah, we know who we're talking about.
Yeah, because that's, so. And Tom said you nailed it. I don't even remember what you said. What did you say, Sam?
His previous comment was about us, how we were trash in the NFC East. But
well, the NFC sucks. I mean, it's a disgusting division. They should disband it and just let the SEC play in the NFC.
Injuries have torched that division so much this year.
Okay, Alan says Chiefs all the way. That makes more sense than Cowboys all the way. But I don't think the Chiefs win it all either. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, no, of course not. 'Cause the Steelers are going to win all of it. Of course. It's got to be Pittsburgh, right?
You're a homer. You're a homer. I'm going with the Buccaneers. That's an awful lot to pay for an ear of corn, but I'm going with the Buccaneers.
No, hey, the Bucs are really getting on hot right now. If they win 2 more games in a row, I would have trouble picking against them.
All right, so how confident would you be with the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Kansas City Chiefs in an AFC Championship game? Honestly.
Honestly, I would lean towards the Chiefs. If you had to make me bet on a team, I would pick the Chiefs.
All right, so everything you said was bullshit.
I would still pick the Steelers in this show.
No, you wouldn't, because I will just bring up this video of you saying that you think the Chiefs will win.
You don't know how to bring it up. You can't do that. You can just mention it, but I'll deny the existence.
Well, I can bring it up. All I got to do is make a screen capture 10 seconds where you talk about it. But I think the issue here is I don't think the Chiefs are going to score in the 20s no matter what. I don't know that Pittsburgh's offense is good enough to score that much on the Chiefs' defense. I think the Chiefs' defense the last half of last year obviously was underrated. And this year, the last couple games, they've looked really good. And my issue with the Steelers is I still think the way to beat Kansas City is to run the ball successfully between the tackles. And I don't know that Pittsburgh can do that to them.
They had a decent outing against Tennessee this past week where they controlled time possession. I think they had 8 or 9 more minutes time possession over Tennessee, which is why they won the game. So I'm not saying they can't do that, but I agree with you. They struggle with it more than Kansas City does. And on the Chiefs, on their defense, they've only allowed more than 21 points once this year. So Kansas City's defense is legit. The only game that they had trouble with was the Raiders.
Well, Alan says Chiefs and Packers in the Super Bowl. I think there is no way in the world that the Green Bay Packers are going to the Super Bowl.
You don't like their defense, right? That's the biggest issue you have with them.
The defense is an issue. The defense is a huge issue. I agree with Tom, who goes Chiefs and Buccaneers. I think if I actually had to be honest, the way they're playing now, I agree with Tom, Chiefs, Buccaneers, Super Bowl, because I think what we saw with the Bucs Packers shows you the issue the Packers have, which is the offensive line is average, but it's not great. And that Tampa Bay defense is just better than Green Bay's defense. And the Tampa Bay offense as a whole is flat out Green Bay's.
Yeah, it could be a little bit of an injury issue. I know the Green Bay Packers are missing a couple of their players when they play Tampa Bay, but at the same point, even get some guys back from injury reserve, it's not going to affect or not going to change the difference between Tampa Bay's defensive front and Green Bay's. The Buccaneers right now just have the best defensive front in football, even better than Pittsburgh's, because they can just shut down running games. There's no point in running against Tampa Bay. You can't do it.
Dude, and you've got Levante David and who the other guy? I always forget him. Second-year player. Devin White. And, you know, when you look at those two guys, I think they're the best tandem of outside linebackers in the NFL. I have not seen Tampa Bay. What's their record now? I think they're 5-2, correct, Sam?
Yeah, they're 5-2 atop the NFC South.
Yeah, and they're going to win the NFC South. And, I mean, let's face it. If your defense is that good, I mean, it's been a long time since Tom Brady had a team this complete around him, hadn't it?
I mean, yeah, we were just talking about last year. We thought the serious flaw with the Patriots was that their offense was just so under-talented. It was Brady kind of carrying them. And we're seeing that was pretty accurate. I mean, they have all the pieces now around him. In Tampa Bay, they're adding Antonio Brown. This team's only getting better, which is kind of scary because this offense is already so good.
Yeah, and people were worried about Tom Brady's age. But last year, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Almost any other quarterback in the NFL would kill to have that and would get a long-term contract off of it. And that was Brady at 42 with not much talent around him. So when it comes down to it, y'all can have your Patrick Mahomes, your Lamar Jacksons, whatever. In a one-game situation, I'll still take Tom Brady over all of them.
You know, the NFL would love to see Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. Tampa Bay, Kansas City would be huge ratings in front of 20,000 mask-wearing fans.
Yeah, I mean, they probably would be disappointed this is the year it happens. But really, I mean, Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes, can you imagine all the storylines that would come off of that? They would love to see that.
That's why I don't think they would be disappointed. Why would you be disappointed? Because you can't have as many fans in the seats. They sell the money through the advertising, not through the fans in the seats.
That's true. Good point.
And then
that would be.
I mean, it would be only great Americans would cheer for Tom Brady. How could you cheer against Tom Brady?
Be a Steelers fan.
Or a Colts fan.
Yeah.
Or a fan of any other team that's jealous. See, I'm a Bengals fan. I have no jealousy. We actually beat New England in 2015, I think, 13-6. We intercepted Tom Brady in the end zone on the last play of the game. How many teams have done that?
See, there's your claim to fame. Something that happened 5 years ago.
You're a Steelers fan.
Yeah, okay. You know what? Time out. I realized that maybe it was not a smart thing to say. So I'm going to back off, and I'll just retract that.
Yeah. The old saying, what are Stan's favorite, the TV station, the History Channel? Actually, I think that goes more probably for Bears fans.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah, because the Bears will tell you how many world championships they won, but only one Super Bowl.
Yeah. And even that is just starting to get a little bit in the rear mirror now.
No, it's just 1986, Sam. I was still in high school. That wasn't that long ago.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Wasn't that long ago. Not at all.
It wasn't, man. What are you trying to say? That's only been, that's been
34 years.
Jeez. Where'd all the time go, Sam?
I have no idea.
You'll learn that someday when you get older. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we covered everything today, Mike.
All right. I want to thank Tom and Alan and whoever else wrote in comments in case I forgot anybody. Hold on. Alan says the Rams are good, Sam.
I mean, the Rams are all right. I'm not saying they're not good. I would just prefer to have a team like, I hate to say Seahawks, their defense is so bad, but I trust Russell Wilson more than I trust Jared Goff. I have issues with some of the leading roles on Los Angeles. I love Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's the best defensive player in the league. But frankly, offensively, the Rams can be contained. They have issues.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay would complete down the Rams. I think it would look like the 1979 NFC Championship game between the Bucs and the Rams, just a different result. What do you think, Sam?
Yes.
You don't know nothing about the 1979 NFC Championship game. Come on, Sam. The Rams won
these things, Mike.
The Rams went to Tampa Bay. They were 9-7 after nobody gave them a chance. They upset the Dallas Cowboys, I think, the week before that. And they went to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay had won the NFC Central, I think it was called at the time. And then Tampa Bay lost 9-0 to the Rams in the Nfc Championship game.
I don't think that's not going to happen this year. You won't see.
Well, no, the Bucks would win, and if it's 9-0, it'll be 9-0 Bucks. But with Tom Brady, it'll be more than 9-0. But 1979 was one of my favorite years too.
Mm-hmm.
You must have had a good year, Sam.
Apparently, I did.
Here we go. Alan said Sam's too young to remember that far back. And then this, hold on, Alan, or Tom. Tom said that's the game where Jack Youngblood broke his leg. The game that Jack Youngblood broke his leg was actually the week before that, the divisional playoff, I believe, against the Rams. Now, I could be wrong, but I interviewed Dennis Hara, who told me that it was there we go. Tom just said the Dallas game. But, yeah, that was the Dallas game. And he played that game, but he played the NFC game with a broken leg. He played the Super Bowl with a broken leg because he was a grown-ass man, unlike the people that play today.
I read he also played the Pro Bowl with a broken leg.
Yeah, and also 1980, the entire season, he played without either leg or either arm.
You know what?
Have you ever seen Monty Python's Holy Grail?
Yeah.
All right, where they're cutting the guy's arms and his legs off and he's still good to go? That was Jack Youngblood. That's where they got the idea for Jack Youngblood, was Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I mean, it's incredible what some guys can do.
It's just a flesh wound.
I know.
It's just a scratch. Damn, we really
This is a movie reference I can get.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, for having us degenerate, you and Alan. But at least we got to talk about the 1979 Rams, which was one of my favorite teams. Come on, you had Wendell Tyler, Lawrence McCutcheon, and Colin Bryant in the backfield. You had Vince Ferragamo, who sucked at quarterback because Pat Hayden had gotten hurt early in the season. But, yeah, they beat the Cowboys in Dallas. I hated the Cowboys. They beat Tampa Bay. I like Tampa Bay because they had the gay pirate with the creamsicle colors on their uniforms. That wasn't politically correct, but hey, what the hell? It happens. And then also 1979, you had Bird against Magic in the NCAA championship game. You had the Pittsburgh Pirates against the Baltimore Orioles, which went 7 games. The Pirates came from 3-1 down to win the World Series. 1979, the New York Rangers made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. Lost 4 games to 1 to the Canadians, but that was the year I became a Ranger fan when they beat the Islanders in 6 games in the conference finals.
So just a great overall sports year then.
Yeah, 1979, Ernie Shavers almost killed Larry Holmes with a hook. Larry Holmes got up and beat his ass. 1979 was a great year.
Apparently.
It was.
I'm not saying it wasn't. Apparently I missed a lot.
Don't mock me. You don't have any years where you could say it was that great. Hold on. We got a comment about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tom says, I believe that Steelers team in 1979 had a negative turnover margin, rare for a Super Bowl champion. Yeah, because I think the last game of that 79 season, they got bludgeoned on Monday Night Football by the San Diego Chargers like 35-7. And then when they got to the playoffs, though, I think they played Miami in the divisional playoff and beat Miami 34-14. And then in the AFC Championship game, they beat Houston 27-13, which is the game where Renfro caught the ball in the back of the end zone. Should have been a touchdown. But since all games are fixed for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Green Bay Packers, they called it incomplete, and the Steelers got to win, Sam.
Yeah, they did. And you were right. They had that game against San Diego where they had like 8 turnovers or something like that.
I remember it was bad. Yeah. And then they came out and just beat Miami to death. And the thing is, people always say, well, if Renfro's play was called a touchdown, they'd have won. They wouldn't have. The Steelers still would have won. The Steelers were better. It ended up 27-17. And what people forget is that Houston had the lead early in that game because I think Vernon Perry picked 6, Terry Bryant 7-0. So really, they only scored 2 field goals the rest of the game. And Pittsburgh's defense over that 2 or 3 year span pretty much stopped Earl Campbell, which is saying a lot about how great the Pittsburgh defense was in 1979, really in every year. I mean, to me, I still don't think I've ever seen a better defense than those Steelers in the mid and late 70s. And the thing that was scary, once you got to the late 70s, the offense was as good as the defense.
Yeah, and Earl Campbell in that game, that playoff game, had 17 carries for 15 yards.
Yeah, and Vernon Perry had the interception. The interesting thing about 79 was the greatest upset, I think, in NFL history in the playoffs, where the Houston Oilers beat the San Diego Chargers. I think it was 24-17 or 17-14. I think it was 17-14. But that's the game where Vernon Perry, the interesting thing, Perry had the pick six at the start of the 79 AFC Championship game. But in the game against the Chargers in the divisional playoff, he intercepted, I think, 3 passes. And I think he might have even recovered a fumble. And the thing about that 79 team was they played a divisional playoff game or a card playoff game against the Denver Broncos, which may have been the most violent NFL football game I've ever seen. The Broncos had that orange crush defense, and the Houston Oilers ended up winning 10-7. You had Dan Passerini, the starting quarterback, went down. Earl Campbell went down. And Ken Burrow, the best wide receivers went down. So the Oilers had to go to San Diego, who was, I think, the number 1 seed, maybe the number 2 seed. They were 12-4. They had to go there, and they had to play Gifford Nielsen from BYU, who was the starting quarterback. Bob Carpenter had to start for Earl Campbell. Kenny Burrow didn't play. They played with about 3 of their best players, and they came in and they won the game 17-14. And I'm trying to remember the story here because Ed Biles was the defensive coordinator for that Houston team. And I interviewed Ed Biles. I interviewed Dan Pastorini. I interviewed like 6 or 7 guys off that team. And I'm trying to remember what it was. But I think what it was is Bum Phillips, who was the head coach, was no doubt one of the most innovative and greatest defensive coordinators that ever lived. And he found that Dan Fouts tipped off the plays, when it was going to be a pass or a run. And it was something where like the 1 foot would be back a little bit farther. But they keyed off of that, and Fouts threw like 3 or 4 interceptions in that game. And that's basically what won Houston the game. I know you're looking at the stats right now, right?
Yeah, I was looking at it. No, I actually remember you telling me about this earlier because we had a quarterback, all-time quarterback ranking show we did back in the summer. And you teed off on Dan Fouts, and you brought up this specific game to talk about it.
Yeah, because Dan Fouts, in 1979, the San Diego Chargers were the best team in football. They had Fred Dean, who was one of the best pass rushers. When you get to 1980, they were still pretty damn good. But then when you get to 81, when they lose the championship game, the defense was never the same once Freddie Dean left. Fred Dean left. A lot of these guys left. You went from having a defense that was probably in the top 10 in 1979 to probably in the bottom half of the league in 1981. The 79 team with the receivers, John Jefferson, Wes Chandler. You had Chuck Muncie, who's one of the great underrated running backs of all time. And the fact that they lost to Houston, but not just lost to Houston, because Houston had a great team, but they lost to Houston without Earl Campbell, without Dan Pastorini, without Ken Burrow. That's unacceptable. And the fact that Dan Fouts is in the Hall of Fame over Kenny Anderson, who went to a Super Bowl, who spanked Dan Fouts' ass in an AFC Championship game, is absolutely ludicrous.
There we go. That's a conversation I remember having from a couple of months ago.
There you go. Because anytime you bring up Dan Fouts, that's the conversation. That's where I'm going. Whenever I hear San Diego Chargers, I think 1979.
Everything it dates back. It goes right back to 1979 or 1980.
Pretty much 1979, 1980. Really, I'm pretty good from 1975 to 1987. That's my sweet spot. So I can remember all this stuff because, see, the advantage I had over other people was I never paid attention in school because I just worried about sports.
That helps out with this kind of stuff.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about? You want to talk about 1978 in the playoffs?
No, we're good.
But I can tell you this. I literally, every time I see the Raiders are playing the Browns, I think 1980.
I believe it.
And I guarantee you this. Every Browns fan my age immediately thinks 1980. It's just like I'm a Bengals fan. When I think of, the San Francisco 49ers, I think of 1981 and 1988. But Alan wants to know if we remember Mean Joe Green. I know Sam doesn't, but he's probably heard about him. But Mean Joe Green, to me, before his injury in like 74, 75, was the greatest defensive lineman, hands down, the first 5 years of his career. Greatest defensive tackle that ever lived. He's a guy you could drop in right now. If it's Mean Joe Green from 1972 or 73, you could put him there right now, and he would make Aaron Donald look bad.
He still is the best defensive tackle of all time.
Yes, I think he is by far the greatest defensive tackle of all time. The problem is, after the surgery, after the first 4 or 5 years, he had the surgery, and then he kind of dropped off. He was still a great player on maybe the greatest defense that ever lived, but the Pittsburgh Steelers still suck. But they're playing the Ravens this week, who I think I hate the Ravens even more than the Steelers, so I'll be cheering for your Steelers.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Mike.
And, Alan wanted to let you know that Terry Bradshaw played quarterback.
I do know the team. I do know the players on the team. I know most of the roster.
Hey, and Terry Bradshaw is one of the most underrated quarterbacks of all time because the dude was 4-0 in 4 Super Bowls.
Everyone goes up to the first couple of years of his career where he really struggled, but after that he put it together. And for that second two, he was really trying to force it.
He struggled really from, his rookie year, I think it was 1970. He struggled really the Super Bowl 9 year. I think part of that year, Terry Hanratty was still the starting quarterback, or Joe Gilliam.
Yeah, no, he didn't start every game in the first couple of years of his career.
I don't think he started every game until the 75 Super Bowl 10 year.
Yeah, actually, let me look that up next. Now I'm curious. I'm pretty sure. I know you're right. He didn't start every game in the opening years of his career. But when did he become full time?
Yeah, because he split a lot of time with Terry Hanratty, who's a great guy. He was on our Legends of College Football show, but played at Notre Dame, was on the Notre Dame team that had the famous 10-10 tie in 1966 with Michigan State. I'm killing time because Sam knows.
No, so you're right. 1975 was the one year when he really took over full time, but he also started most of the games in 71 and 72. And then after that, he kind of started pushing him to the bench a little bit more.
Yeah, it was Chuck Noll was treating him the way Chuck Noll would treat him, but it ended up working out all right in the end. All right, Sam, anything else?
Nope, that's everything.
All right, we got to wrap it up. Alan and Tom, come back anytime, especially if you want to talk about the 70s or the 80s. Maybe I'll just do like a 1980 Week 8 show. We could pick all the games and talk about the 1980 season.
I think you would have to carry the show pretty much if we're going to do that, Mike.
Well, it's pretty much like this show. All right, make sure you check out Manscaped. Use the promo code TGT20. Also, check out Replenishing Care and Technologies at rcandt.com. Sam, on Monday, you're going to have to give us a brilliant read about Manscaped and how it made your balls happy over the weekend.
Hey, I will. I've got the box now. I've got the container. I can look it up. I can get into it this weekend. Here's the camera. There it is.
All right. We'll both give a full report on Monday about Manscaped and whether it made our balls happy or not. But until then, I'm my Goodpaster. He's Sam Teets. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.